Give us your name, rank, and branch of service.
Hi, my name is Jeff Connole. I was an E4 promotable in the United States Army. The part where it says promotable, anytime you serve over 3 years, then you become the rank of sergeant. So I had become a acting jack sergeant in the United States 3rd Infantry in Arlington, Virginia. And had I stayed in the list more, I would have gotten my sergeant stripes, and I would have been a sergeant if I would have stayed over 3 years in pay and grade.
What was your military occupational specialty?
My MOS, military occupational specialty, was a 76 Yankee 10. That's the numbers. That stands for Unit Supply Specialist. My course of my duties was transportation and logistics of recording from the property books of the expendable and non-expendable items, such as ammunition on the expendable property books. The non-expendable is such items as the cleaning materials for the barracks.
Okay, alrighty. When did you serve?
I served between 1983 to 1986.
Okay. Where were you originally assigned?
I was assigned to the Old Guard in Arlington, Virginia, after I was specially recruited for being the top of my class at Fort Jackson, South Carolina. The Old Guard is stationed in the Arlington, at Fort Myer, Virginia, in Arlington, Virginia, at the Arlington Cemetery. During training, I was specially recruited to belong to the Honor Guard because I was between the height requirements of 5'10" to 6'2". I had great physical stature at that time, where I was the top of my class, being able to run 2 miles in less than 12 minutes. And I fit the requirement of the weight wise. First thing they look at is your academics, and when you go into the military, they give you a GT test, and that is your IQ. So when I was 19 years of age, I had 118 IQ, so you had to have over 100 to be into the Honor Guard. You had to have a clear record, and back then, how they recruited you to be in the Honor Guard was they looked up your high school records, and then the Secret Service then interviewed all my teachers. My teachers told me about the interviews when I got out of the service or I was visiting town. And that's how they found that to have a White House security clearance, that I had to have a clear background, had to be in physical shape. I had to agree to have a high and tight haircut, no facial hairs, no tattoos at that time. And that's how I was recruited for my special duty in the Honor Guard in Washington, D.C., Arlington, Virginia.
Okay. Were you deployed during any type of conflict?
Before I got stationed at Fort Myer, Virginia, during training situations, I had just graduated training. In October of 1983, we were having the Grenada invasion. So in between the holding process of going to my duty station, I had to load the planes and guard the planes from the closed airport space down in Carolina, Fort Pope Air Force Base, and that was part of it. And so I get recognized as a Grenada era veteran due to helping the Grenada conflict on U.S. soil.
We asked this last question from a couple different angles, as I told you before the interview. What was your toughest situation that you had to face, and then juxtaposed with what was your favorite takeaway or memory from your time in the service?
My toughest situation was that when you're in the Honor Guard, besides all the funerals that we do for the fallen service members, we also did military presentation shows. And those shows would be during the summertime. Our parade season lasted from April 1st to October 31st. Then from November 1st to March 31st, either we trained very hard for those or we went down to Fort A.P. Hill to train to protect our nation's capital. So we were both a ceremonial unit and we were also the infantry unit for Washington, D.C. During the summertime with the parades, we would have a show called Spirit of America, and then we also had another show called Twilight Tattoo. The twilight part means that it's obviously starting at 7 o'clock and it's fading into the darkness at 9 o'clock because it gets dark earlier in Washington, D.C. And one very hot 100-degree day, muggy with the thunderstorms coming up, we got the show in, and with the East Coast mugginess, to clean up all the supplies afterwards, we got delayed and we tried to keep the field best, and then working through that to keep all our props that needed to be stored with this thunderstorm that came because of the heat, getting that, and then I was told that I had to show up to work the following morning at 12 noon. So because I had worked into the night till about 2 o'clock, keeping everything dry and ready for the next performing show, the man that was in charge of the production at that time told us that we did not have to show up to work till 12 noon the other day. So when I was given that instruction, my first sergeant that I worked for was expecting me to run my PT in the morning as business as usual, and no one had given him the message. And he was expecting me to do some pickups and deliveries for him starting at 8:30 in the morning. Well, when I didn't show up because I was giving the permission to come to work later, he said I was his boss. So at lunchtime, we're in the mess hall, and there was a group of auxiliary ladies that were doing a tour for the military and the military shows that we had. So they were eating in our mess hall. So since I didn't have to be at work till 12 noon, I figured, okay, I'll go get my lunch, which started at 11 a.m. Well, my first sergeant, he sees my face and he lights up big time, worse than the drill instructor that I ever had in the basic training. He comes in and he goes, "Specialist," which was at that time my rank, soon to be private, you were supposed to report to work at this time at the loudest in the cafeteria. All these ladies are looking at him as like, what is going on? So he gives me the drill instructor type of feeling at the mess hall with all these dignitaries from the Pentagon. We ate lunch or our breakfast and lunch at the same mess hall that the Pentagon generals worked, and these women auxiliary part were part of the officer corps. So after these women had seen a great show with beating bad weather at night, we then had to go through a basic training moment with my first sergeant, who I really loved, that really treated me good, but I took a yelling at for no reason, and that was probably the most embarrassing, maybe stressful at the time, because I was like trying to find a way out of that mess hall at that time. So that was probably my worst and most memorable experience. I was awarded the Army Accommodation Medal for saving all our props, because it was a unexpected bad storm and we did not have the weather facilities that we do now to sit there and say. So feeling good from saving everything to wanting to get out of that mess hall was a 24-hour event that was probably my most memorable and worst memory. So
Outstanding.